There is a deeply rooted belief in our culture, the idea that the more we do, the more we advance. This reasoning works well in the physical world we've learned to call 3D reality, where effort and productivity are the currencies of value. But in the quantum field, this logic is reversed. Here, the amount of action is not the measure of progress, and often it is precisely the excess of movement that takes us further away from the change we desire. This is the paradox few allow themselves to consider. Doing too much can create such intense energetic noise that it distorts the message sent to the field. Bruce Lipton explains that our cells do not respond to pressure, but to the perception of safety. When we live in a constant state of urgency, we transmit to the body and to the field around us the information that something is wrong, and that perception directly affects genetic expression and our biological balance. Joe Dispenza adds that the electromagnetic field of the heart, responsible for transmitting our intentions more deeply, becomes clearer and more powerful when we are in coherence, when mind and heart vibrate at the same rhythm. The opposite is also true. Urgency and excessive effort fragment this coherence, turning intention into a confused signal. It's like trying to tune into a radio station and, instead of music, hearing only static. So the question is provocative. What if your biggest quantum leap didn't come from doing more, but from doing less, with more clarity? What if the key wasn't multiplying actions, but purifying the internal state from which those actions arise? This is the perspective that can completely change the way you relate to your own desires and to the field that holds them. From an early age, we learn that doing more is synonymous with evolving. In the physical world model, this thought makes sense. Accumulated effort, hours worked, visible productivity. But at the quantum level, this logic doesn't hold. Here, excess action is often a sign of internal misalignment. It's as if we were trying to compensate with external movement for a lack of clarity in the internal space. And this, far from accelerating change, tends to scatter it. In the quantum field, what moves the pieces is not the amount of energy we expend, but the precision of the signal we emit. Bruce Lipton explains that our internal state, the way we interpret and feel life, shapes the body's response and consequently the way we interact with the field. When we act in a disordered way, without clear emotional alignment, we send mixed signals, as if asking for several things at once, and in the end, receiving none of them fully. This is where micro-energetic adjustments come in. A small shift in intention, a pause to reconnect before acting, can have a greater impact than days of continuous, scattered effort. Joe Dispenza shows that at the electromagnetic level, the field responds more to vibrational coherence than to the intensity of physical action. This means that a single decision made in a state of internal alignment can be more powerful than an entire list of tasks carried out in a state of anxiety. That's why the more is better misconception needs to be seen for what it truly is. A reflection of three-dimensional conditioning that does not apply to the laws of the quantum field. In the space where reality is shaped by vibration, fewer actions, but more conscious ones, can make the difference between staying stuck in the cycle of endless effort or stepping into a flow where things align naturally. The field does not read the amount of movement. It doesn't measure the sum of your actions or the volume of energy you spend to achieve something. What it picks up is the vibrational quality behind what you do. It's as if, beyond any word or gesture, there were a silent code being transmitted at every moment, and that code is determined by the internal state you are in. Bruce Lipton explains that this internal state shapes biology in real time, altering chemical and electrical signals circulating through the body. And because the quantum field is sensitive to these frequencies, it doesn't matter how intense your action is. If it's accompanied by anxiety or fear, the message that reaches the field will be insecurity, lack, urgency. This is why, so often, actions taken in desperation produce more blocks than results. The best way to understand this is to imagine a radio. If the signal is full of static, no matter how much you turn up the volume, all you'll get is a distorted sound. On the quantum level, acting without internal coherence is like turning up the volume on a poorly tuned radio. The power increases, but the content doesn't get any clearer. Joe Dispenza reinforces that coherence between mind and heart is what cleans this signal, allowing it to reach the field with clarity and strength. When we understand that the field reads vibrational quality rather than the quantity of effort, something changes. We start directing more attention to how we feel while we act, and less to the obsession with incessant doing. At that point, doing less, but from a deeply aligned state, becomes infinitely more powerful than any disordered effort. There's a point where effort stops being momentum and starts becoming resistance. This moment is subtle and often imperceptible at first. It happens when the pursuit of results turns into constant pressure, when the urgency to make it happen begins to create physical and mental tension. The body stiffens, the breath shortens, and without realizing it, we start transmitting to the field a message of insecurity, exactly the opposite of what we want to manifest. Lipton shows that when we enter a state of prolonged tension, we activate survival mechanisms that prioritize protection, not expansion. In this mode, the body interprets the environment as hostile, closing itself off to the new. It doesn't matter how many positive phrases the mind repeats. If the body is on high alert, biology and the vibration sent to the field will align with fear and scarcity. This is why anxiety disguised as productivity becomes an invisible obstacle, slowing down or even blocking the flow of manifestation. Joe Dispenza explains that when we remain in this pattern, the electromagnetic field we emit loses coherence. Energy, instead of flowing freely, becomes fragmented, and the opportunities that could align with us end up going unnoticed. Excessive effort creates more noise in the signal, making it harder for reality to respond clearly to what we are asking for. Recognizing that excessive effort can be a form of resistance is liberating. It allows us to replace compulsive action with a more conscious posture, where each action arises from a regulated, coherent internal state. And it is in this shift in posture that the field begins to respond with more synchronicity and flow, without the need to push life forward by force. Between one action and the next, there's a space we almost always ignore. It is in this interval that frequency reorganizes, that the signal sent to the field is cleared, that invisible pieces begin to fall into place. The problem is that, accustomed to measuring progress by constant movement, we mistake pause for wasted time. Yet the quantum field responds differently. It's not the accumulation of actions that generates magnetism, but the clarity and stability of the energy from which we act. Small pauses are like the silence between the notes of a song. Without them, the melody becomes noise. By allowing moments of full presence, without the rush to act, we give the body and mind a chance to enter coherence. Lipton explains that in this state, the biochemical signals sent by the cells change, supporting processes of repair, balance, and receptivity. The result is that communication with the field becomes clearer, less polluted by unnecessary tensions. Research on the brain's default mode shows that when we're not focused on specific tasks, our mind enters a state of creative rest, reorganizing information and finding solutions that wouldn't emerge in the rush. Joe Dispenza points out that it is in this space, free from urgency, that we can feel and visualize with greater precision, sending the field a coherent and powerful signal. Intentionally creating intervals between actions is not laziness, it is vibrational strategy. It is allowing each gesture to have weight and direction, instead of being lost in excess. And by doing so, we stop living at an exhausting pace and step into a flow where life responds more quickly and harmoniously. The heart is not just a pump that keeps blood circulating. It is also a center of energetic intelligence, capable of directly influencing how we connect with the quantum field. Studies from the HeartMath Institute show that when the heart and brain are synchronized, we generate a more coherent electromagnetic field. And it is this coherence that expands our ability to perceive opportunities and manifest changes with stability. Joe Dispenza explains that the heart sends clearer and more powerful signals to the field when we are in balanced emotional states, such as genuine gratitude, appreciation, or serenity. In this state, our intentions are no longer fragmented by anxiety, and instead are transmitted as a single, clear, stable beam. Lipton adds that in this moment, our cells also respond to this harmonized internal environment, creating biological conditions that sustain change. Without heart coherence, even well-directed thoughts can get lost in the noise generated by conflicting emotions. It's like trying to talk to someone in strong wind. The message scatters before it reaches its destination. But when heart and mind align, the signal propagates with strength and clarity, finding resonance more quickly in the field. Practicing heart coherence does not require hours of meditation. Several times a day, simply pause, focus your attention on the heart, and breathe slowly and deeply while feeling emotions that bring warmth and softness. This simple adjustment of internal state is often what separates the frustrated attempt to create something from the real experience of seeing that creation materialize. Doing less does not mean folding your arms and waiting for life to take care of everything for you. It means changing the point of origin of action. In the quantum field, allowing is not passivity, it is active trust. It is creating space for the field to move the pieces that, in relentless effort, we try to push by force. It is letting go of the micromanaged control that keeps us tired and often far from the result we desire. Bruce Lipton reminds us that when the body perceives safety, it enters a state of growth and expansion. It is in this state that our cells become more receptive and our biology favors the manifestation of new scenarios. Joe Dispenza adds that when we stop compulsively interfering, the field finds a more direct path to reorganize reality according to the vibration we sustain. Allowing is like planting a seed and then tending to the soil without digging it up every day to see if it's sprouting. The anxiety of constantly checking interrupts the natural process. In the same way, when we take a step and then rush to fix what the field is already aligning, we send mixed signals that delay the outcome. When we release micromanagement, something curious happens. Things begin to move on their own and more quickly. Synchronicities multiply, doors open effortlessly, and the next step becomes evident. Doing less in this context is more than strategy. It is a conscious choice to cooperate with the field rather than trying to command it alone. Neutrality is not a lack of interest or giving up on your desires. It is a state in which anxiety about the outcome dissolves, leaving only the clarity of intention. In the quantum field, this state transmits trust, and trust is a clean, noise-free signal that the field interprets as stability. It is like saying without words, I already know this is on its way, and I don't need to agitate for it to happen. Bruce Lipton explains that when the nervous system is regulated, the body understands it is safe. In this state, there is no activation of survival mechanisms that divert energy from creation into defense. Joe Dispenza reinforces that, vibrating at this point of balance, the field responds more quickly because it doesn't have to translate mixed signals of desire and fear arriving at the same time. Neutrality is powerful because it reduces vibrational noise. When there's anxiety, even subtle, it seeps into the signal being sent, like background interference. This is why many people feel they are doing everything right, and yet nothing moves. It is not a lack of action, but an excess of tension. Neutralizing this anxiety is like polishing a lens. Suddenly, the view becomes clear and the focus sharpens. Living in this state is training yourself to desire without attachment, staying present while the field organizes the circumstances. It does not mean the absence of emotion, but rather enough trust not to artificially accelerate the process. It is in this quiet trust that the most precise synchronicities tend to happen, not because you forced them, but because you were ready to receive them. The body is the first point of contact with the quantum field. Even before the mind formulates a clear thought, the nervous system is already sending signals about how you perceive the world, and these signals directly influence how reality responds. Bruce Lipton explains that our cells are constantly reading the internal climate and adjusting their activity according to the perception of safety or threat. This means that if the body is on alert, biology shifts into defense mode, limiting openness to the new. Joe Dispenza adds that even with positive mental beliefs, if the body remains locked in patterns of tension, the field interprets this incoherence as instability. This is why so many attempts at change fail. The mind says, I want, but the body, tense, transmits, I fear. This contradiction creates a mixed signal that delays or distorts the manifestation process. Training the body to associate change with safety is therefore essential. This involves simple practices such as deep breathing, mindful stretching, or moments of silence focused on the sensation of being safe in the present. Small physiological adjustments, done consistently, help create an inner ground where the new can take root without triggering biological alarms. When the body is regulated, the mind finds it easier to maintain the clarity and coherence necessary for manifestation. It's like tuning the bass of a musical instrument. With the structure and harmony, any melody becomes clearer and more resonant. In this state, the field receives a unified signal, and change ceases to be just intention. It becomes a concrete possibility. Not every desire is born from the same place. Some come from the ego, loaded with urgency, comparisons, and fear of being left behind. Others arise from the soul, quiet yet carrying a stable force that doesn't need to prove itself. In the quantum field, this difference is crucial. An authentic desire already contains within its vibration the frequency of its fulfillment. What we need is not to chase it with anxiety, but to stabilize it internally until the field can reflect that vibration back to us. Bruce Lipton reminds us that our biology responds to the way we interpret and feel life. When a desire comes with insecurity, our cells read the environment as unstable, altering how the body organizes itself to create. Joe Dispenza explains that at the energetic level, the vibration emitted by an unstable desire is irregular, like a flickering light, and the field responds with equally unstable results. Stabilizing desire is more than keeping mental focus. It's feeling in the body that it is already possible. It's allowing the sensation of already living that reality to become familiar, safe, and comfortable. This transforms desire into a sustained internal state rather than a distant point forcing us to chase after it. In this state, urgency dissolves and gives way to trust. When desire stabilizes, it stops being a pursuit and becomes a natural extension of who we are. It is no longer a question of when or if it will happen, but of allowing it to reveal itself in its own time. And it is in this space of stability that the field finds the clarity needed to collapse possibilities in a precise and harmonious way. Clarity is like a beam of light cutting through the fog. It illuminates a specific path while everything around it remains diffuse. In the quantum field, this definition of direction is magnetic. Scattered thoughts fragment the signal sent, while an aligned thought, sustained by a coherent emotion, creates a precise collapse of possibilities. It's as if, when the field receives a clean code, it finds less resistance to transform intention into form. Bruce Lipton points out that, biologically, clarity reduces stress and stabilizes internal chemistry, creating an environment more favorable to change. When the body feels safe, it keeps energy available for expansion, not defense. Joe Dispenza reinforces that emotional clarity, not just mental clarity, is what gives vibrational weight to intention. When what you want is clear to both the body and the heart, the field reads it as a consistent command. However, clarity is not about thinking the same thing obsessively. It's about removing the excess. Fewer thoughts, more presence. Fewer doubts, more consistency. It's like adjusting a camera lens. Just a small movement can turn a blurry image into one with sharp details. On a vibrational level, this directed focus amplifies the magnetic pull of your intention. When we combine clear thought with coherent emotion, we create a stable signal capable of cutting through noise and finding resonance in the field. And in this state, doing less becomes natural, because there's no need to stack actions to compensate for uncertainty. The power is in alignment, and alignment is what attracts. True quantum change does not come from an accumulation of actions, but from an internal state of coherence and safety. Bruce Lipton reminds us that it's the internal perception, the way we interpret and feel the world, that shapes biological expression even before any external action. If the body and mind understand they are in a safe environment, the whole system opens up to receive and create. Joe Dispenza reinforces that stable emotional states generate electromagnetic fields that are clearer and more powerful than any isolated technique. It's not how much you do, but how aligned you are when doing it. When the heart and mind emit the same signal, the field responds with faster, more precise, and and more lasting synchronicities. Doing less, in this context, is not giving up. It's making room for the field to move in your favor. It's trusting that manifestation responds to the clarity of your being, not the amount of effort you apply. It's acting when action arises from a state of alignment, and resting when the moment calls for stillness. Thus, the paradox resolves. The more you regulate yourself, the more the field organizes itself. The more you remain present and coherent, the faster changes reveal themselves. The key is not in pushing life forward, but in creating the inner space where it can bloom without resistance. And it is in that space, silent and precise, that the quantum leap happens.